And we're back, people. We seem to have encountered some technical difficulties. I was saying to the guys off air that it was all going smoothly, and that was the death knell. That's probably what ended it, and here we are reconnecting. But just back onto the UFC 220 reaction. So, Mathew Penny, sir, give me your thoughts on the main and co-main from Saturday's fights, mate.
Well, DC, he did exactly what he said he was going to do. You know, in the promo before the fight and throughout the week, he said he pressures guys against the cage, he tires them out, they give up their back, they show their neck, and they tap. Yeah. And he literally could not have predicted that any more perfectly. You know, I have to say, though, walking to the cage, DC just looked more up for it. I mean, I get that everybody has their own style, but I just looking at both of them, Volkan, to me, just didn't look like he was ready. Maybe it was cockiness. Maybe he thought he was going to get in there, do it in 2 minutes, and then walk out. I don't know. But to me, DC just looked well more prepared, well more ready. He looked up for it. He took some good shots in the first round. He didn't look rocked at all, though. He did it really well. Towards the end of the first round, though, he got some heavy strikes in himself. And again, that rear naked choke. Joe Rogan said in the after fight interview, he said 10 more seconds of that first round and it was over. And he's right. You know, 10 more seconds and it had been done completely. So in the prediction show a couple of weeks ago, I had a good laugh with, I think it was Kevin Jones about DC.
Yeah, he loves DC.
So, you know, I'm a big DC fan, and I predicted a decision win. So I'm a bit surprised about TKO. I know he can do it, but I just, against Volkan, I thought it'd just be a wrestling rounds until the end. But fair enough, TKO is nicer. I'll take it. Volkan delivered against lesser opposition, but against the best in the division, he just came up way too short.
Yeah.
But DC, at the end, showing all the class at the end, you know, saying Volkan did a good job. He didn't really, but still, he's a classy guy. So all the love for DC, and I'm looking forward to his next couple of fights, because I know he said that he was looking at retiring in the next year. So hopefully we get 1 or 2 more fights out of him at least.
I mean,
so looking forward to that.
I don't think it's the end for either challenger. I mean, it's a setback, yes, but I don't think we're looking at this is the reigns coming off, and the same for the champions as well. I mean, DC's getting up there in age, but aside from John Jones, who really has troubled him? You know, I know they push it hard there at AKA, but realistically, man, there's ways to go until I see DC sort of hanging up the gloves as well. I may be wrong. I may be totally wrong. He might just be, you know, looking to ride off into the sunset, and probably more power to him with this commentary gig he's got now. But it's a tall order to try and knock one Daniel Cormier off the pedestal unless your name's John Jones. But the less said about him, the better. I'm not getting into that debate again. Anyway, let's move on, guys. One of the main talking points of this week was the whole the love triangle that is Khabib time, defender vacate. You know, we've got Tony Ferguson, Conor McGregor in there. I'm sure you guys all saw the press conference with Dana White refusing to answer whether or not Conor McGregor would be stripped, but then almost in the same breath he announced that the fight was for the real lightweight belt, which is, you know, it's. I
don't think he used the word real, did he? He said that's the belt. He kept shirking it. He said, "Is that the belt?" I
mean, what he did was kept us all
there's a reason.
Confused.
Yeah, there's a reason for that.
Yeah, and it's kind of like what Ariel Helwani said. It's the reason is because Conor McGregor is the most powerful man in the UFC, and I've got to concur to some degree. But let's hear you guys' thoughts. We'll start with Mathew this time. Mathew, first of all, how did you like the matchup with Khabib and Tony again, and what about this whole Conor isn't stripped, real belt teasing Dana scenario?
I love the fight. It's going to be a great fight, no matter what. I think Khabib will win it. I'm not going to take anything away from Tony Ferguson, but I'm just not a massive fan. So I think Khabib's going to win it. The press conference and the whole, you know, shenanigans around it. I think the fact that they've got a huge UFC game coming out soon with Conor on the front, that has had something to do with it. Yeah. And just like you said, the fact that he has a big hold over not only the UFC but just the whole world of MMA in general. Like, you cannot get away from his name. So he says he wants to fight in September. You know, you're hearing reports that he wants to fight in September. So, and of course the UFC have booked the national stadium in Russia for the 13th and 14th of September. So that would suggest if this belt, the Khabib Tony belt, is going to be the real belt, you would think that Conor is going to come straight back and then be chucked straight into a title fight. I don't think Conor's going to like being stripped again, but he's always sort of ignored it. You know, when he got stripped of the featherweight belt, he never acknowledged it, and he always said that he was the champ. So
the champ, yeah.
I can't wait to see. I can't wait to see Khabib Tony. I can't wait to see Conor and Khabib in September. So yeah, I'm looking forward to both fights in this year.
We've got an interesting 2018 for sure. Kyle, give me your thoughts on this debate. I mean, should Conor be stripped? Isn't he just bigger than the title? I mean, he doesn't really need it going into his next fight, does he?
Yeah, I mean, should he be stripped? Sure, but I think it's a much deeper issue than that. I mean, first of all, the reason why Dana wasn't saying he's stripped, my guess is there's one of two reasons. One, there's something in the Mayweather contract that says Conor couldn't be stripped for X amount of time, and we're still in X amount of time.
Right.
And Conor and Dana was assuming that Conor would fight before it ever really mattered. That's my guess. Okay. Or option two, you need leverage. If the fight falls apart, you'd still like to maybe get Conor involved. Maybe you're hoping that Conor decides, you know what, fine, I will fight at 222. And then you kick one of those two guys off. You don't really care which, and you put Conor in. So but it's either leverage or there's something in the contract that says he can't be stripped. So Dana's just dancing around the terminology. But listen, if you're anything like me, and I would say this to everyone on the panel, and maybe you guys don't agree with me, but I would say it to everybody who's listening, you do what I do, because I get to live in this world where I can love Conor McGregor and still not view him as a title holder. You know, yeah. I love Conor McGregor. I think he's been one of the greatest things that's ever happened to the sport. And I think to not think that is to be a little bit naive in what has happened and what's transpired since he's gone on this reign. But listen, I don't Tony Ferguson's champion at lightweight. And just tell yourself that. Then you won't be mad about it, whether it's a real belt. Of course it's for the real belt. Conor doesn't have the belt. It doesn't matter. Just don't worry about it. Tony Khabib is going to be a fantastic fight. Worry about that. You know, don't worry about whether it's a real belt or a fake belt. It doesn't matter. It's the belt. Conor does not have the belt.
I have to agree. And actually, I love Conor too. But you know, it's getting to the point where I'm really frustrated with him because I watched his documentary and I got the DVD.
I loved it.
Yeah, throughout the documentary, he says how much he loves fighting. He loves pure fighting, and he just does it. And he might not even have to, you know, in the early days, he didn't have to get paid. He just wanted to fight. Yeah. Where has that passion for fighting gone? Because surely if he truly loved it, he would just got straight back into it, and he hasn't, which annoys me, personally.
It's all about the money. Reason. It's gone in $100 million or whatever it was. That's what it's gone.
Well, it's the same reason why, like, Oasis started to suck. I mean, it's the same, and you could list off 1,000 bands that all do the same thing. It's the reason why you get a lot of money, and it's not that you don't have the passion. It's just a whole bunch of other things then present themselves, like the Mayweather fight, right? What a ridiculous thing that happened. I mean, what an insane reality we all lived in for a little while, and that's something that. Nobody else in the sport could have ever even dreamed of that happening because they couldn't have crossed over into pulp culture in the way that Conor McGregor did. So when you get rich and you get fame and you get all this, all of a sudden a whole bunch of doors start opening that maybe you couldn't even imagine 5 years ago, 2 years ago, even a year ago. So I think that's what's happening. He's getting you're getting some of that hangover from things are happening that just nobody really expected, to include the parties involved.
Hangover. Yeah, that's a good way to put it, a hangover, because it was such a high that you get. There has to be a come down, right? Yeah, I suppose you're probably right. Well, G, let's hear your thoughts, mate. What's your thoughts on this whole debacle, and what do you think the future holds for Conor and for the UFC?
Yeah, I recorded my show just a couple of days ago, the MMA Shower, and we had a fan question on the very subject, a chap called Frank from Germany. What is the situation with the Conor McGregor? I'm not the biggest Conor fan. I understand what he's done and everything else, and it's commercial. But from my perspective, he's devalued being a champion, devalued having a belt. And he's also devalued ranking systems. Not him completely, but he's certainly at the forefront. So from that perspective, yeah, if someone becomes champion, 7-8 years ago, when someone became champion, I was like, wow, what a fantastic achievement and blah, blah, blah. But now there's a bit of manipulation, a bit of very clever matchmaking, but obviously he's very talented as well. In saying that, the Russian thing will only work. Now, Russia is the biggest landmass country in the world. It's probably got the most groups in terms of, you got Siberia, China, Mongolia, and all the other sides of Europe as well. So it's got Dagestan, Chechnya, and all those countries. Yeah. Well, they're states, but they're still part of Russia. Mm-hmm. So the Russian thing is only going to work if Khabib wins, obviously, because they're not going to take Ferguson to Russia, I wouldn't have thought. And it's an untapped market from a pay-per-view perspective. So it could work. The theory could be that Dana didn't want to use the S word because if Khabib wins, they've got a ready-made mega event. Could be the biggest pay-per-view. They could fill out a football stadium in Moscow, CSK Moscow, whoever, and get 70, 80,000 people in. So that would only work if Khabib wins. But don't forget, Tony Ferguson is an animal. He's a Tasmanian devil. He just does anything to win. He can virtually take anything, so that's not a guarantee. I would tip Khabib personally, but it's certainly not a guarantee. But I think, yeah, McGregor is at a level in his career that he doesn't need the money. That's obvious. Maybe even before the Mayweather fight, not essentially, needing the money, but obviously once you've banked $100 million or whatever the final figure is, you're not really fighting for money. Is he fighting for legacy? He hasn't defended a belt yet. 2 years, 3 years since being a champion. So I think he's devaluing certain things, but money talks, and that's why, like you said, he's effectively the boss, John.
Well, this is it. I mean, it's and a lot of questions have come into it, and we could probably move on to that. But either way, I mean, it's like I said. I just got to reiterate it. I think this year is it's teasing excitement. Whether it'll all come to fruition, I mean, think how many times the Khabib and Tony fight's been on and off. I don't want to jinx anything like I jinxed this podcast, but.
Twice already.
I know. Yeah, I mean, it's been off twice, so yeah. Let's fingers crossed that if what we're seeing on the horizon is possibly going to happen, then just fingers crossed that all goes well. Let's get to the final part of the show, and it's my favourite, answering fan questions. I'll just remind the panel of the one rule we have on Martial Arts Chat, and it's simply that you do not have to wait your turn, gents. The floor is yours. So if you're ready, we'll start with Mr. Tom Heffernan, who asks, should fans that woo be tasered by security officials until they stop? This is obviously related to the online campaign. Yes, simply yes.
Yes, simply yes.
Is it such a bad thing?
Would a shotgun be too far?
Oh, it's terrible. It's John. It's terrible. If you haven't been watching live events with the sound on, thank the heavens that I do fight companions for each card, so I get to watch the main card on mute, so I don't have to listen to the woos. But when you watch like the early Fight Pass stuff, and there is and the crowd is virtually empty, and you have three guys who are incessantly wooing from some dusky corner of whatever place they're in. I mean, it is maddening. It is a maddening sound.
I wonder who started that. I wonder how it started.
Somebody started it, and we need to find that. That is patient zero. We need to find patient zero and eradicate him to keep it from spreading in the future. No, I mean, what we really should do, honestly, right? So let's offer a real solution. You literally, and this is just bonkers that this is a thing you have to do. But here's what you got to do. You have to literally institute a wooing policy or something along those lines. Or what you'd have to do is you'd have to make some
that would be impossible to police, though, wouldn't it?
It would and it wouldn't, because once you kicked two people out, all of a sudden it would start stopping, right? And once word got around that these venues,
you would have to bring it into legislation. That
we're kicking people out.
Parliament,
get Congress involved in America.
Should we do an online petition or something?
Yeah, change.gov around our parts. Yeah, I mean, how bizarre. I don't know what you'd actually do, but you got to do something, because honestly, we talk about devaluing. I mean, that is devaluing not only the people who are there, but people who are watching it at home. It's all I can hear when I'm watching those early fights where there's really not a big crowd yet, because crowd kind of starts trickling in. It's so loud.
Isn't it just drunk people having a good time, though? Like, they don't really...
But it's not. It's beyond that. It's beyond... Listen, drunk people having a good time is drinking, getting in behind a wheel, and driving down the road, right? That doesn't mean that it's not okay. And like, this is that. This is the MMA fans' version of driving drunk. I mean, like, stop wooing. And if you're listening to this and you've done this, whoa, like... Come talk to me.
I don't know if you guys have ever or watch professional wrestling in WWE, but wooing is actually very prominent in professional wrestling, and it's encouraged. So
it's Ric Flair's signature. Yeah,
leave it there. Leave it there.
It's a professional wrestling thing. Really.
I love me some Ric Flair.
Me too. Yeah. But let's leave it there. Let's leave it at Ric Flair's house.
In the wrestling ring. Yeah.
Let's leave it there.
Not in the octagon. Yeah.
There you go.
Agreed.
But I said to Tom, I recorded my show a couple of days ago, and somehow I had a guest on, and we did a Ric Flair woo. So my show's going to come out next week. So if you all listen carefully, you'll hear a Ric Flair woo.
Oh, I can't wait for that.
You probably won't listen.
Be listening. That's very triggering for me. So I don't think I'll be listening.
Tom also followed up with an interesting point about Conor McGregor. He was talking about Conor McGregor being stripped of the title, but he pointed out that the UFC video game, it has Conor on the cover holding 2 belts.
2 belts. Oh yeah. Yep. I don't think he earlier, sorry, I forgot who was talking, but about devaluing the belt. And I don't necessarily think that Conor's devalued. I don't think he's devalued anything. And this is why I say that. Look at Tony Ferguson. Do you consider Tony Ferguson to be any less because of Conor McGregor? Do you view both people relationally?
His title is interim champion, isn't he? That's what he won.
Well, no, I get that, but I'm saying, like, you as a fan, do you look at Tony Ferguson differently because of Conor McGregor?
Yeah, because he's got to fight the real champion to identify who is the best.
See, and I guess
the best.
that's where I don't consider Conor to be the champion. So I guess at the end of the day, the reason why I don't devalue it. So maybe this is my epiphany. I don't devalue the belts because I don't care. I don't view Conor as being the champion. So I don't look at Tony. Tony is champion at 155. Same thing for Max Holloway. Max Holloway was never not the champion.
Why have the belts at all then?
Well, what he should be doing is, and I said this on I'm half joking, but I've said this before, and you should get rid of the women's featherweight because it's nonsense. Why is that in existence? And you create a male and a female money belt. And Conor becomes champion of the male money belt. Listen, if we're gonna have people wooing, let's get money belts involved. We might as well get money belts involved.
Should we put a ladder in the middle of the cage? Should we put a ladder and a table?
Yeah, something. Let's get women fighting in lingerie, like whatever. Do what you got to do.
Anyway,
but it's
John,
like
bring it back in order.
Yes, please.
I don't know. I'm thinking about getting someone a manager, getting a mouthpiece when they walk out. Actually, I've got a question for Kyle. A question directly for Kyle. It's
weird.
from your best friend Kobe. It's not really a question. Actually, it's a statement, and I have to do an impression for this one. So I'll channel my my inner Arnold Schwarzenegger here, and he told me to tell you, who is your daddy and what does he do?
You actually did that.
Is that all right? That was all right.
That was really good. I
What's he on about?
imagine that my daddy is Stipe. I imagine, just because I had been so high on Francis.
Okay.
But I'm not 100% sure who my Well, I know who my father is in real life, but I'm not sure who Kobe's referring to, unless he's saying he's my daddy, in which I don't believe that to be the case.
This became a real different type of podcast tonight. Let's move on to some more fan questions. Michael Riordan, he messages us to say, he said, I'm probably one of the biggest McGregor fans out there, but I believe he should be stripped. It's just stalling the division, and I think he is as big as he is now. If he comes back without the belt, it doesn't really matter at this point. I guess we kind of touched on that earlier, but is he bigger than the belt now, Conor McGregor?
Yeah, he's almost a caricature of the rest of the fighters. The rest of the fighters have to stick to certain limits, but McGregor pretty much is a caricature, and he swings his own way.
His character is bigger than the belt, but I think, he likes that term, the champ. I think he still needs that belt. He could probably still sell the same amount of pay-per-views. So I'm going to contradict myself. He's probably going to sell the same amount of pay-per-views that he did if he didn't have the belt. So do you know what? Probably he is probably bigger than the belt. He probably doesn't need it, but I think he wants to have it. I think he does.
Yeah, and I also think, again, and I hate to be this guy, but I also don't think I certainly don't think he's holding up any divisions. I don't think that at all. He never held up featherweight. Featherweight is going just fine and was going just fine when he was there. Featherweight's better than it's ever been right now, and lightweight is doing perfectly fine as well. So, I mean, he's not holding anything up. Everything's going perfectly fine. And in fact, the best two divisions, I think, in the UFC are 145 and 155, both divisions that he's been a part of. Yeah. So I don't think he's holding them up. Earlier I said that I don't think he devalued anything. I'm going to walk. I at the time walked back a little bit, and I'll continue to walk back. I agree. I mean, because belts, at the end of the day, it's relational. So,
Well, it should be the pinnacle of any division or combat sport or really, any sport that has a belt. And the one thing what I don't like about the UFC is when they walk into the cage, no one's holding the belt. In boxing, the trainers hold the belt.
That is so annoying. I hate that too.
And the casual can know who the champion is, but they walk in, no one has a belt. Then in the end, out pops a belt. A fat, bald guy comes up, ties it around him, and that's it. It's done.
Fat, bald guy.
Hey, man, I could not agree more. Yeah. I couldn't agree more. It's they're lacking a lot of fanfare.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
a bit of razzmatazz, panaz.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our fan questions are on this subject. We've got Lewis Cunningham, who follows up with, strip him, let Ferguson and Khabib fight for the proper title and have McGregor come back for the win. I know, I don't know why. He says, that way the division hierarchy is respected. So he's using the word respect here now. We find out who the best fighter is. The new champion looks unstoppable no matter who wins. And you've got a big money fight at the end to keep Dana and casuals happy.
Potentially. There are no laws when it comes to Conor. Who he fights next is as big of a mystery to you and us sitting here as it is to Dana White, as it is probably to himself. So but I also don't think he's scared of anything. I don't think he's scared of Khabib. That's a narrative that comes out.
I hate that. I hate when people say scared.
I think he 100% believes he could beat Khabib tomorrow. Now, whether he can or not is either here nor there. But I think he absolutely believes he can.
I reckon he'll be wary or certainly very respectful of Khabib's skill set.
Sure.
Well,
good reason.
Yeah,
they have been good friends. Conor and Khabib have been good friends in the past. There's pictures all over the internet of them two posing together.
Oh yeah, I remember that one. Yeah.
But I'm also. I said earlier that I expect Conor to come back and face Khabib if he wins in Russia in September. But I'm also half expecting Dana to just shit all over everything and say, right, Conor's fighting Nate again. And it's going to be like, oh.
And it's going to be in Russia.
It's going to be in Russia, yeah.
Just because.
Yeah, why not? Let's just do it. Fill the stadium. Let's take one more on this then. Stephen Cater messages to say, I think McGregor will go the way of Liddell, to be honest. I've watched it for so long, I see the patterns. I loved him at the start, but I cringe at him now. His hunger is gone and relies on a big punch. Probably best he doesn't return. It's became a circus in recent years due to the Notorious. Think it's a circus, guys?
I certainly don't think it's the same because what he said is he's been watching for a long time, so he's seen the patterns. The problem is that if he's been watching for a long time, he should know he has literally never seen this before. Conor McGregor is a very, very different animal. No matter how long you've been watching the sport, he's a very, very different animal. And this isn't the same thing. Now, he very well could just kind of, and what he should do is take one more fight and ride off into the sunset. I mean, if you don't have the hunger, you don't have the hunger. But I also think that he does have the hunger. I think he absolutely still has it. I just think there's a lot of other stuff going on, and he's maybe having trouble managing it and prioritizing. But I think he does still have the hunger. But if you can walk into an octagon and you can make, $5 million versus making $1 million,
of course.
Why on God's green earth would you do anything other than making sure you got everything that you could, so that the rest of your life is set up? I mean, it's nonsense to think that he should just not care that he could leverage his position into getting stake in the UFC, that he should not leverage his position and his power to get millions upon millions upon millions of more dollars for doing the same exact thing he was doing before. Yeah. It's nonsense. He absolutely should do that, and that's what's happening. And I think once all those ducks get put in a row, he'll be back. And then we'll see how many more times he fights. But
does
we'll see.
Does the listener mean when he made the Chuck Liddell comment that his lifestyle is going to catch up with him?
I assume
so.
Because that could be
part
true.
of lifestyle.
Lifestyle, yeah.
There is no way when he ran into that Bellator cage that he was not zooted out of his mind. I'm pretty sure he did a line of cocaine as he was running into the cage. I mean,
all the way from his house to the event. Yeah,
exactly, for sure.
Oh, that was hilarious.
It wasn't a yellow brick road, no.
Right, that's what that was.
Lara said it best of that night. He said everyone's losing their mind about Conor McGregor jumping the cage, but you forgot everyone should have been losing their mind because Charlie Ward won a fight.
Got him.
Which was a bigger shock, bigger story.
Yeah, you're probably quite right. Well, there you have it, guys. Another week wrapped up on the roundtable despite our technical difficulties. But my thanks to the panel at this time. I'll extend my thanks thirstly to Kyle Steele of the Loudmouth MMA podcast. Kyle, thank you so much for your time, sir.
Oh, you're very welcome. And it's a pleasure meeting you guys, and I will be back on as soon as you allow me.
A pleasure as always, sir. And to G of the MMA Shower, always a pleasure getting your time, mate. Let everyone know where to find you and check out your show, mate.
Yeah, thank you, John. Nice to meet the other guys. Nice to make their acquaintance. Yeah, on Facebook, on Twitter, and on Mixcloud and Spreaker as well. So thank you for having me on again, John.
And to Mathew Penny of Nature of MMA, always a pleasure to get your time, mate, and let everyone know where they can hit you up online.
Yeah, it's been great once again, John. Cheers for having me on. You can catch me over on Twitter at MMA Nature. I've also got a website with a load of articles, and we're taking on extra writers whenever we can. mmanature.weebly.com.
Hey Kyle, how's that Nicolas Cage movie reviewer looking? We still doing it?
Hey, not only is it going fantastic, but this Saturday we have another live show. So if anyone is listening to this and for some reason they're local to the Dayton, Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio area, come on out. Live show at Taft's Brewporium. Doors open at 8.
You check it out, guys. Don't forget, if you like this podcast, subscribe to us on iTunes. You can do that for searching for Martial Arts Chat. Like us on facebook.com/Martial Arts Chat, or follow me on Twitter at, you guessed it, at Martial Arts Chat. John Boy McElroy, catch you next time on the Roundtable.